If you are looking to protect your wealth while living in Dubai, one of the key questions is whether you use a trust or an offshore company. Both are powerful tools, but they work differently and are used for different goals. In this video, I'll explain to you how each one works, what are they best for, and which one makes more sense depending on your situation. This is a topic that comes up all the time in my clients' calls. A lot of people want asset protection and privacy, but they don't want to set up the wrong structure. And once you have moved your business or investments offshore, it's much harder to undo if you choose the wrong path. Before we start, my name is Shiraz Baid and I'm the founder at Lepidus Wealth, where we help clients and families protect their assets using a range of tools, including trust, foundations, wills, and offshore structures. So if you own a business or real estate, don't wait until a legal or health crisis to start thinking about protecting what you have built. Instead, request your free and customized asset protection plan by clicking the link below. You can then implement it step by step as your journey progresses. Now, first, let's start with offshore companies. These are entities that are usually set up in jurisdictions like BVI, Cayman, or RAK ICC in the UAE. The main benefits are privacy, limited liability, and access to global banking. An offshore company lets you hold assets in a clean, separate legal name. That could be real estate, stocks, intellectual property, or even holding stakes in your main business. With an offshore company, you still have ownership either as a shareholder or through a nominee structure. But you control everything. You can move funds, sign contracts, and manage the business. It's great for active entrepreneurs, digital business owners, and people who want flexibility without giving up the control. You can also use offshore companies to streamline international payments, reduce currency exposure, and access financial services that may not be available under your personal name. For example, if you're dealing with suppliers or clients in different countries, a company makes things simpler and more professional. Now let's look at trust. A trust is a legal structure where you give assets to the trustee. The trustee then holds and manages the assets for the benefit of the beneficiaries. In Dubai, you can use DIFC or ADGM trusts. Both offer strong asset protection and are based on English common law. The key idea is that you no longer own the assets directly. The trust owns them for you, but you still benefit from them, either through distributions, income, or the use of assets. This makes trust ideal for estate planning, legacy protection, and for people like business owners, doctors, and public figures. Trusts are great when you want to protect wealth from lawsuits, creditors, and future tax exposure in other countries. They also let you set rules about how and when your family can access the money, especially useful for minor children and future generations. If something happens to you, a trust avoids legal processes and makes sure your assets are passed on privately and efficiently. You can also choose how the money is used for education, housing, business investment, instead of leaving everything in a simple will. But there are downsides. Trusts give you less direct control. Once assets go in, they must be managed according to the trust deed. You can appoint a protector to oversee things, but it's not the same as being the owner. And setting up a trust properly costs more than a company. There is also a question about regulations. Trusts are more heavily regulated, especially if they hold large amounts or are used for cross-border planning. That's why it's important to work with a licensed trustee and not just set up something online without proper legal guidance. So now comes the question that when you should use each one. Well, you should use an offshore company if your main goal is to run a business, hold assets like stock or crypto, and manage real estate or intellectual property or reduce reporting requirements in your home country. It also makes sense if you want to keep full control of your decisions over your cash flow. And then you can use a trust if you need to protect assets from legal claims or creditors. If you're planning for future generations, or if you want to avoid forced heirship rules in your home country or in Dubai. Trusts are also useful when you want to separate the ownership from the benefits received or support dependents over a long term. In many cases, the best setup is a combination. For example, a trust can own your offshore company. That way, the trust holds the legal title, but the company still does the day-to-day business. This gives you protection of a trust with the flexibility of a company. This combination is especially useful for families with global assets or multiple income sources. It creates a clear legal layer between your personal name and your business or investment activities, which helps with lawsuits, tax audits, or inheritance planning. Also, keep in mind the tax reporting. Many countries like UK, Australia, or Canada have strict rules about reporting offshore structures. If you are still a tax resident in one of those countries, you need to disclose your interest in these structures. But once you have exited the home country tax system properly and become a Dubai tax resident, that's no longer a concern. Another thing to look at is the cost and maintenance. Offshore companies are cheaper and faster to set up. You can open in a few days and start operating. Trusts take more time, need proper documents, and must be managed by a trustee or corporate service provider. But for larger estates or complex needs, the extra cost is often worth it. Here's a simple way to think about it. If you want control, you need to go with a company. If you want protection, you go with a trust. And if you want both, you have to combine them. It depends on your situation, your goals, and how much complexity you're comfortable managing. As I mentioned earlier, if you own a business or real estate, don't wait for legal or health crisis to start thinking about protecting your wealth. Many people think asset protection is only for ultra wealthy. But the reality is that some of these solutions cost as much as setting up a free zone company in Dubai. If you want to secure what you have built and ensure your legacy, you can request your free and customized asset protection plan by clicking the link in the description below. And if you're serious about building long-term financial security, you should really check out my next video right here.